can't see you here. Blinded. So, good evening. How are you guys doing? Good, great. That's awesome. First off, thank you very much for coming over. I know that these days it still feels a bit weird, you know, to go to physical events, but I guess we need to get used to this. My name is Alessio, the founder and CEO of AgriFoodTech, and I'm really excited to be here in our FoodTech Innovation Hubs to celebrate actually food tech and most and foremost the global entrepreneurial talent behind it, as today we unveil to the world the 2021 FoodTech 500, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it in a second. We did make basically the list live earlier today, and this is the first event we're running physically, where we actually unveil, you know, the list of the world, but also we will host local food tech heroes, how we call it, that actually made it into this year's listing. We have a pretty packed agenda as of today. I'm gonna give you a quick introduction about forward fooding and the FoodTech 500, but before I do that, we're gonna have welcoming notes from also our partner in crime, Talent Garden, in the name of Sveli, who is gonna tell you a little bit more about the space and why we actually partner up to bring to life the FoodTech hub here. Then I'm gonna introduce you the listing, the full ranked list that is available also on our website. And we're going to deep dive a little bit into the AgriFoodTech ecosystem in Spain. We're going to share some data about how it's grown over time and how we actually see it looking. To then really give the floor to some of the top companies that are actually based in Spain and made it into our listing this year. I don't want to spoil you too much about it. You will hear directly from them, you know, what they do. And then we're going to wrap it up with by opening up the networking session, where we're going to be basically moving across this wall, and we're going to have basically drinks and a little bit of food as well, so that you can enjoy it. But without further ado, let me introduce you to our partner in crime, Sveli, which is the head of Campos at Talent Garden. Over to you.
Okay, yeah, it's true that you can't see anybody. So I will just hide here. Hi everyone, and thank you Alessio for the warm welcome. As he said, yes, I'm the head of campus of Talent Garden Spain, but in Talent Garden we not only have Spain, we have 18 campuses across 9 different countries. And of course, the partnership starts because our mission in Talent Garden is to empower people and organizations, to empower people and organizations by creating networking and learning opportunities within the digital ecosystem. In this digital ecosystem, we host a community of around 4,000 plus members. And my colleagues in Madrid will kill me if I don't say this, but this year we have 2 big openings in Spain. In May, we're starting our digital course of, our innovation course of digital HR. And in September, we are opening our 3rd campus and 1st campus in Bilbao that is focused on the interaction between startups and corporates. So, if you guys have any questions and you want to know more about Talent Garden, please feel free to reach out to me in the networking event. I think I'm pretty easy to find with this color. So I leave the stage back to Alessio, and thank you everyone for being here. Oh, wait, about the space. Sorry, I'm a host of the space. The toilet is just behind us into the first door to the right, okay?
Thank you very much. And most of them saying the at is probably good. It's what's going to make it recognizable in the networking session. Fantastic. So, very briefly again about us as Forward Fooding as an organization. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, but as I said, today we're here to celebrate the global food tech talent. So, I'm going to be really brief. What we do at Forward Fooding is very simple. Our mission is to foster innovation to redesign our food system. I know it sounds very kind of ambitious, but it's very simple. What we do is we basically hyper-connect all the ecosystem stakeholders of the space to enable collaboration opportunities. So on the one end, we basically help our clients, investors and corporates primarily, to access data and insights from a platform that we built called the Food Data Navigator, which now maps about 15,000 ecosystem actors globally. On the other hand, we help basically our clients to match make them and scout interesting technologies that can help them to innovate. So we're talking about very big corporate and food corporations, but on the other hand also investors who are looking for opportunities to invest in. And last but not least, through our startup network, through the FoodTech 500, which again I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in a second, and through our FoodTech Innovation hubs here in Barcelona and London, which was established in 2018, we basically host resident companies, as well as we give visibility to 500 companies every year through our listing, to again help them to connect to the ecosystem that I showed you earlier. But these are some, like, just at a glance, some numbers. We had about 35 corporate clients, out of which we work with about 7 Fortune 500 corporates now. We have about a network of a community of about 19,000 people who work in the industry, including entrepreneurs, corporate executives, investors, and journalists. We have mapped globally about 7,000 AgriFoodTech companies. So this is companies that work across the supply chain from farm to fork. And through the FoodTech 500, we've received about 5,500 applications over the last free edition, which is actually what we're unveiling today is our 3rd edition in a row. But a little bit also about the space, as Sueli mentioned earlier, we have decided to partner up to create it from scratch. We had this crazy idea of doing it during a pandemic, but we felt that was the best time to really do it. And the way we work together is really, Talent Garden provides us with the space to host our resident companies and our greater community of startups. And we provide basically mentoring ad hoc to some of the resident company, as well as to the broader community of startups that we decide to basically make part of our FoodTech Innovation Hub. And on the other hand, also on the first floor, we have a podcast studio that allows, again, the companies to create digital content. But the idea with the hub was really to not only create, a space to foster, this type of collaborations, but also to help, our corporate clients to tap into some of the innovation that is actually being developed, within the space and, in the greater area, let's say, of Barcelona, by tapping into our, again, community. So these are some of the activities that we basically co-run in partnership with Talent Garden. These are some of our members, or some of the numbers that we basically put together over the past, now 12 months, roughly speaking. We did our unveiling event last summer in July, and so we have onboarded about 22 now members as far as startups are concerned. Among our resident members, our community members. We have run about 30 plus one-on-one sessions with founders. So here's where we go deep into helping them to solve challenges that they're currently facing. We have enabled about 80 introductions off the back of some of the sessions, as we use basically our network to help the companies that form our community. But again, we're here to celebrate, the FoodTech 500. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit more about how the whole idea of the FoodTech 500 started, and really what it sets aside to do. Back in 2019, in our headquarters in London, we were all wondering basically who was going to be the next company we're going to IPO in FoodTech. And we all had different ideas as far as our team was concerned, and so we were like, why don't we actually ask companies to apply, and then we create a scoring mechanism to basically put them on a sort of a list, right? And the idea with that was very simple, was really to raise awareness about some of the innovation that these companies are creating. And so what started as an idea really back in 2019 ended up becoming what we think is the Fortune 500 of AgriFoodTech, as the list that showcases groundbreaking innovation and companies in the world of AgriFoodTech. And really the mission was very simple, right? At that point, only Beyond Meat, which is a company operating in the plant-based space, was the only public traded company in the world working specifically in food tech as we define it, which is basically any innate technology across the supply chain that creates either more efficiency or sustainability or both of them, right? So we're not interested really in the sort of like, incremental innovation that maybe, very big corporates might have created, but we were really interested in that grassroots innovation that was happening in the entrepreneurial, space. And so really the idea there was like, how can we create a listing that showcases the underdogs? So the companies that are less known, right? Once you become, a public traded company, I guess it's fairly easy, to get that type of visibility. But to get there, right, it's not that simple. And so the mission really was simple. We wanted to showcase, these companies and then prove the impact that they were making at the food system level. And so 3 years into the making, I'm really proud to say that not only we have reached more than 180 countries in terms of applications received, as again, combining the 3 years, we have received more than 5,500 applications from international companies all over the world. But also we give visibility, to these companies, as we had through our press coverage about 350 million monthly readership because of all the features and all the public, the specific publications where these companies were basically exposed. And also we had about 2.5 million social media impressions over time, only for posts related to the FoodTech 500. And this gives us great, actually, hope and great pride as small organizations, I guess, as we are. We were still able to create that impact to showcase, these companies globally. The way it works, as far as the methodology is concerned, the scoring mechanism is actually very simple. We used basically three main factors: business size score, digital footprint score, which are actually taken from our data intelligence platform. So these are two proxy that are algorithm led. We take basically external information from a number of different data catalogs, and the algorithm basically gives a score to each company based on, when it comes to business size, is a proxy of the size of the business in terms of ad counts and markets where they actually operate. When it comes to digital footprint, is a proxy of the amount of traffic that they're able to generate over their website, as well as how fast they're growing over social media. And then actually, in absence of a sustainability framework that would work across the full supply chain, we created, in collaboration with sustainability experts from the academia world, a self-assessment for companies that we ask basically them every year to go through to basically create the sustainability score. And this is all based on the SDGs, which are the Sustainable Development Goals, which were set by the UN. And then depending on basically the goals that the companies pick, we ask specific questions about what are the sustainable practices that they put in place to tackle these SDGs. But again, we wouldn't be able to do it by ourselves as a small organizations that, as we are still, compared to, I guess, others, we use collaborations as our kind of secret power, right? And so we were able to onboard about 44 actually media partners over the years, and this year we had a record-breaking 22 media partners that have actually helped us to reach every single corner of the world in terms of letting companies know about this opportunity of basically applying for the FoodTech 500. And on the other hand, our sponsors, Dole and Neom, were basically decided to really get behind this listing, as they see the talent behind it, as one of the assets that they can also leverage. But also our technical partner, Data Scouts and the University of Turin, who actually helped us to basically build the scoring mechanism that makes the ranking possible. In terms of these years, just key metrics, we had about 2,255 actually applications from international companies working across the supply chain. That is about 85 countries covered in terms of entries. And we had a whopping 17 actually IPO and unicorn companies that actually made it into the listing. So I gave you a little bit of the background story about how this whole listing started, where there was basically one IPO company in the whole space back in 2019. Today we've counted about 83, if I'm not mistaken, and out of those, basically 10 have already made it into our listing this year, and about another 20, based on a little like financial model that we built, are likely to become traded to become basically a public traded company within the next 12 to 24 months. So this gives you, I think, a good understanding. Again, it's only 500 businesses out of the 7,000 plus that we've mapped over the years, but still I think it's very indicative of where this space is going and how mature it really has become. As in 2019 there was only one basically public traded company. Today there are 80. So it gives you, I think, also the speed at which the space is evolving. And we have already more than 400 applications for next year, which is also a good signal of the fact that it's going to be also an interesting one. But again, here there are many data points, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but well, just to kind of share how heterogeneous also the set of companies that we picked this year is, as they basically go from very early stage companies, let's say pre-seed to seed, all the way through more mature ones. And what I think is really interesting about this year's listing is not only the fact that we raised the bar quite significantly, and it's just because of the applications, really the amount of applications we received, but it's also the fact that compared to many other techs, I think the AgriFoodTech space is a lot more diverse. If I take a data point from last year's edition, we had about 48% of the founding team of the companies that made it into the listing were actually either part of minority, let's say, groups, including companies who are female-founded, Black, Asian, or other minority ethnic groups, LGBT+, or founders with disability. The reason why we started last year to ask this type of questions to the companies that were applying was really because we were interested in understanding what were the driving factors, right, of the fact that the space was growing, so fast. And I do believe that, compared to many other techs, is intrinsically, a lot more diverse, and this makes it a lot more inclusive, than others. So there are less barriers to basically enter it, or at least they're lower. And as I mentioned earlier, basically, as we started this journey of figuring out, how to kind of predict, future IPOs, as far as FoodTech is concerned, with actually our team, we put together, we selected a group of 35 companies that actually have IPO'd, and we looked at all the data that we had available about them. So we looked at the funding velocity between different rounds, how much capital they raised, what was the longevity of the business before IPOing, and we created this, I call it financial model, but it's actually more like a data model that predicts the trajectory that they've taken. And we were able to basically not only spot the 10 companies that are part of this year's listing as far as publicly traded companies are concerned, but we spotted another 7 that are actually likely to become to go public in the next 12 months, and another 13 that are likely to go public in the next 24 months. And when the team presented me this finding, I was like, okay, but how exactly did we calculate this? And when I digged into the number, I was like, well, this is actually pretty solid. And as a matter of fact, since we started this work, 2 companies have either completed their IPO, and one was actually done on February the 4th, so we had to change all the numbers because of that. And another one announced it in November that they were going to IPO this year, and actually they have filed their IPO. So I would say with a certain degree of error still, but we're fairly confident that actually these predictions are likely to occur. But again, we're here for the FoodTech 500, and drum roll please. This is this year top 10 which includes companies of the likes of InFarm, Bowery Farming, or Plenty, who actually work in the ag-tech space, and particularly in the vertical farming space. Company like Insect, which actually work in the insect protein space, both for livestock as well as for human consumption. Benson Hill, which works in the ag biotech space. And Imperfect Foods and Good to Go, which you might have heard of. We call them, our food waste heroes, as they work respectively in direct-to-consumer, wonky foods and vegetables delivered to your doorstep, and Good to Go, basically rescue meals that would be thrown otherwise, from restaurants. Pivot Bio, which also works in the ag biotech space, and HelloFresh, which is also a meal kit, company that delivers directly to your doorstep your food. And last but not least, an alternative protein company called Notco, based in Latin America. So it's a pretty diverse group, and again, it's only the top 10, but we focus on showcasing it. To then, we don't have time to talk about 500 companies, but the full rank list is basically available at forwardfooding.com/foodtech500. And we've taken a step further to really try to figure out what were the key impact metrics of some of these companies, again, when you take them as a cluster. And we use some of our data just to kind of give, I guess, an idea of the fact that they're not really that small anymore, as basically 2 of them are respectively public traded and a unicorn. But again, as a cluster of 10, they have raised more than $4 billion in funding to date. They've created more than 20,000 jobs, have filed or been granted about 210 patents, and they're operating as we speak into over 50 countries. Again, if we apply basically this set of metrics to the rest of the list, I think you can get a sense of the type of impact that these companies are also creating. And this year we're also taking a step further, or a farther effort in trying to combine actually all the different editions of the FoodTech 500 into one page. So when you go on forwardfooding.com/foodtech500, you're actually capable of switching from one year's list to the other and see basically the full ranking. And also using this QR code, you'll be directly directed there. And as we do every year, basically, we've also created vertical focused lists, or basically reports, where we showcase some of the top ranked companies within each of them. So today we're revealing the official white paper, which basically includes exclusive content from some of the companies that made it into the top 10, but also the alternative protein report, as well as the AgTech top ranked report, which are available at forwardfooding.com/reports. But to finish off this part of the session, let me just deep dive a little bit into the Spanish ecosystem. We're all here in sunny Barcelona, and we basically picked some numbers from our intelligence platform to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of how the space has grown over the last, I would say, 10 years, but we've also focused really on the last 5 years in particular. Within our database, we've mapped about 310 now companies that are based in Spain, and work basically across, again, the food supply chain, so from ag-tech all the way through food waste and beyond. As a cluster since 2012, so in the last 10 years, they have raised about 1.2 billion euros, which again is pretty sizable given the size of the ecosystem. This basically means that the space in terms of investment has grown at a rate of about 100% compounded annual growth rate wise. And there are about 95 accelerators and incubators, as well as professional investors, specifically focusing in investing in this space. When it comes to the FoodTech 500, which is the representation of today's sessions, we had about actually 13 companies, who have made it into our global listing that are based in Spain. And Spain represents basically the 4th country globally in terms of representation into the list, which again, followed by, followed by Italy, France, and Netherlands. But also, before them, there is Israel, United Kingdom, and United States. Which again, given the size of the ecosystem and how fast it's grown, I think it's pretty indicative of the potential that also is ahead when it comes to AgriFoodTech. As a cluster of about 31 companies that raised 67 million euros, and the space itself, again, as far as the 31 companies are concerned, have grown their investments in terms of compound annual growth rate in the last 5 years by 97%. And these really are the heroes of Spain as far as the FoodTech 500 is concerned. So we cover the whole, this is basically the set of categories that we use to make sense of the agri-foodtech space. And as you can tell, it's also quite diverse, as it goes from next generation food and drink, so where we talk about alternative protein companies, even new ingredients, all the way through ag tech with companies that work also in the vertical farming space, food delivery, and new enabling technologies for the space, food processing, kitchen and restaurant tech, food safety and traceability, and surplus and waste management. So I think they basically cover, again, all these as 31 companies, so 1/10 of the whole space. They cover pretty much every single step of the supply chain. And without further ado, I'm going to leave it to our company, well, the companies that you just have seen here, or some of them, that are going to be telling you more about what they do. We're going to do it in a 5-minute pitch sort of format, and then we're going to open it to a quick Q&A if you guys have any questions you want to ask them. How does this sound? Yeah? Shall we do that? Great! So, Meritxell, if I can get you on stage. Meritxell, yeah?
Ale,
Sorry, Consentio.
it's Consentio.
Oops. I basically overlooked at the slide, and instead of starting from the left, I started from the right. Benoit, sorry, you're here, great.
Thank you. I can say my name. Thank you. And congratulations for all the job you've done for this training. It's very impressive. And you're really helping the ecosystem, so thanks a lot and congratulations.
Thank you, Benoit. I'll give you also the clicker.
Thank you. Perfect. So, good evening. I'm happy to present you tonight Consentio. I think we're talking innovation tonight, and I think one thing which is very important is that in our human history, agriculture is probably the first innovation we have, right? And we take it for granted, but by itself, we existed before agriculture, but it really made us grow as a community, right? It's very important. And I think tonight we are using another innovation that now also we take for granted. And one question I have for you tonight: who is actually a producer here? Who does produce and who's a producer? And maybe tonight there is nobody. Huh? So raise your hand. Anyone is a producer? Is a farmer? Okay, one. And okay. So do you produce yourself? Do you eat your own production also?
Yes, I produce lettuce from vertical farming and product system.
Okay, great. Thank you. So it's very interesting because that means that most of us, more than 99.9%, on a quick calculation, if there were not another innovation, we will not be alive today, right? Because we don't produce what we eat. We live in cities, we are tonight in a city. So there is another important thing is communication, right? Because I'm sure you as a producer, you receive orders, right? So you don't eat all your lettuce, right? So, and that's where Consentio is. We really believe communication is what will enable all the ecosystem, and that's where we are tonight. Because we think we can really improve how the supply chain coordinates itself, and also how we communicate about the quality of food, right? So, and we started to speak, right? Also, then came Gutenberg, and then internet, right? So, and we really believe, so what we've done at Consentio is we spend a lot of time with producers like you, we spend a lot of time with consumers, wholesalers, and we saw that basically if we want to improve the ecosystem, you really have to give new tools to communicate, right? So today, a lot of, and maybe it ring a bell, it has internet, a lot of producers, suppliers have internet. It's very interesting that it has evolved with new tools of communication in a very disorganized way. And when you talk about fresh lettuce, you cannot take 2 weeks to process an order. It's very real time. Strawberry is the same. So, and when you look and when you dive in, it's really use fax, Excel, screenshots, WhatsApp, and other tools, right? So Consentio basically give a lot of our money to all of this because we have our own chat, and we can also process any order in any format, meaning if you receive a fax, a scan, whatever. So we just take, one of the features we do is we take away all the administrative work or orders so that they are much more fast. And our goal by doing that, you give an immediate benefit to the community because you take away a lot of administrative work to producers, you increase the productivity, but also you make the supply chain much more real time, so you reduce food waste because you don't have the strawberries waiting to be placed, right? But beyond, and so these are examples of what you can achieve because we give a catalog and each client has a different price. You can buy pallet, box, whatever. We bring e-commerce to the supply chain, right? But beyond that, what we really think is the community aspect. So once you have brought all the productivity to suppliers, what we really like is how you can use Consentio to actually have more feedback from the consumers, from the supermarkets, from the shops, from the restaurants, and to enable, like when you are, right now, when you go to decide for a hotel or for restaurants, you are already used to, if you go to a city, maybe some of you have traveled and you don't know Barcelona, so you check out online what's your option. And when you go to a supermarket, you don't necessarily know so much about the lettuce or the tomatoes you buy. And what we want to change with the community is to have more exchange in the whole supply chain, more information be exchanged in a very win-win and natural way, like we do tonight, so that people can ask questions about the lettuce, can ask questions about tomatoes, can ask questions about the impact on water, carbon, and all these things, right? So for us, it's part of involving, and why? Because we want the consumer, the supermarket buyers, and everyone to care more than price, but care about taste, care about water impact and carbon, and this happens through the communication feature of Consentio and how people, influencers, opinion leaders, consumers can talk and express, right? And beyond that, you have the usual, you can broadcast. So we really bring something which goes way beyond the facts, and that can bring colors, photos of the produce, and people can really exchange. And again, only one person here is a producer, so you may not realize, but all you have eaten today has involved a lot of communication. And the way it communicates is not so modern, and also, probably, most of you would like to know much more about what you eat, about what you drink, and how you eat and how you drink can improve and impact metrics on the planet, and how your choices can positively impact the planet, right? So that's why we're also part of the UN Global Compact, and really our motto is to empower the food community, which includes all of you, where consumers suddenly can talk more freely with the producers and see how, when we ask for less carbon, less water, we can help to make it happen, because we cannot have only just the producer paying for it, right? So it's really communicating. We were used to say, I want a salad, and the future is definitely I want a salad that really helps the community, that has a positive impact on the planet, and that's also good for my health, right? So, and what's wonderful, and here we talk about supply chain, but supply chain is often associated with industrial goods or shampoo. In this case, food is such a wonderful, it's much more than a product. it has taste, it has smell, it has so many, it has colors, and we really think the current tools to manage that supply chain doesn't allow to reflect this. And we are in agriculture, and what else than agriculture can have so much impact on the earth, right? So happy to have a bit some questions now.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Any questions? Any questions for Benoit? We're a small group, nobody's judging, so don't be shy if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're gonna move on to our next one. Thanks a lot, Benoit.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Lynette, the stage is yours. We have Lynette from Natural Machine. I'm gonna give you the timer as well as you requested it.
I'm
so
gonna keep it as well.
you have it.
Something fit. Okay. Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to actually be on a stage today and not just behind a computer. So first of all, congratulations to the Forward Fooding team, your third year of an annual list, which I'm sure gets harder and harder to do every year. We have been honored to have been on this list for the past 3 years since it started. And every year it does get harder and harder because not only does Forward Fooding grow, but the food tech industry is growing and there's more companies coming on board, which is fantastic because there are a lot of things that need to be fixed and optimized in our food system. So we welcome that competition actually every year. So who am I and why are we here? I'm one of the co-founders of Natural Machines. We're headquartered here in Barcelona. We also have offices in New York and Beijing. We sell globally. And we create innovative 3D printing solutions to several different industries. We started with food tech. We do more than food tech now as well. But food tech is still one of our top priorities, our top markets, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So this is one of our printers. This is Foodini, a 3D food printer. Now, does the idea of 3D printed food sound a bit crazy to you or odd? There's more and more 3D food printers making press these days, mostly because of all that work with alt meat proteins and all companies in the meat space that are 3D printing. But does it still sound odd to you? Well, it really shouldn't, because you're eating 3D printed food already. We just don't call it that. So if you eat anything packaged from a food manufacturer, anything in the supermarket that comes in a package, you're practically already eating 3D printed food. A food manufacturer takes food, they push it through machines, they shape it, and they form it. We've taken that exact same concept, created a kitchen appliance, but the big difference is you use your own ingredients. It's under your control. So typically things you might buy packaged, with a 3D food printer, you can now make it yourself with your own ingredients in a much easier fashion. 3D printing is basically building up food layer by layer to do a completed dish. This happens to be one from a Michelin-starred chef, so it's a bit fancier. But why do we do this thing with 3D food printing? Well, let's compare it to a food manufacturer, which is large. Our 3D food printer is countertop. A factory is very centralized. They have a wide radius of where they get ingredients, they bring it in, make their food, and send it back out to a wide radius. With a 3D food printer, you can actually make those foods on a much more localized scale using localized product. You can also make it on demand, when you want it, when you need it, which is quite different than a factory, which is basically pre-made food. And when you're eating food from a food manufacturer, it's a mass market product. Whereas when you use a 3D food printer, it can be customized to your nutritional needs or to your tastes. So with all that, you can see how 3D food printing can help you lower food waste, have economies of scale on distribution, on inventory. So with that, we follow the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. It's a bit of our guiding star as to why we exist as a company. So if it's still kind of out there, maybe to help you understand it a bit more, people do come up to me and say, hey, so you're really automating food piping. And I say yes, with hesitation in certain cases. So it's an easy way to understand 3D food printing is to say, we're like a food piping bag, but we automate it. The problem with that analogy is that it only works in bakery items, really. We think about food piping with decorating cookies, decorating birthday cakes. but we don't necessarily think about 3D food printing with wider amounts of food and variety. So I ask you to open your minds a little bit further. These are 3 industries we work in. We work in more, but these are some of the top 3 and doing a lot with 3D food printing these days. Of course, there's the all proteins. So whether it's plant-based or cell-based meats, we don't create the formulations, but we help to gain the right texture that the manufacturer is looking for. We also work in healthcare. This is a very specific use case for people with dysphagia, which is trouble swallowing. The most severe form means you just eat purees all the time, which, as you can imagine, gets really boring. So we print that to make it look real, to make it look appetizing, to bring the joy back into food for these people. There is a fallacy that everybody thinks that 3D food printing has to be a pureed food. It does not, but that's another presentation. And we do work with personalized nutrition. That's a big thing happening in the market these days too, which goes down to that customization of making food for you. So today we are a B2B or a B2B2C. Our customers will sell to end consumers. That's not what we're focused on today. We're not focused on the consumer market. However, we do think that in the future, 3D food printers will become a common kitchen appliance. And that's how actually many of our common kitchen appliances started, in a B2B to a B2B2C to B2C. So that's my time. Here's my contact details. I would be happy to hear from anybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to just hold you back here for a second in case anybody has a question. You can also say it in Spanish if it feels more comfortable.
Although I'll answer in English.
I'll translate it for you. Great. So I'll just take this one and I'll get to you.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you basically want every household to have this appliance, right? Eventually. So how do you because it also adds an eco footprint when households have more appliances. So is the machine itself made from sustainable materials, or how will it be recycled, etc.?
That's a great question. We actually recently launched something that's called the Advantage Program, that you're basically, let's say for lack of a better term, renting the hardware. So that if you come to an end of use with that product, whether it doesn't meet your needs anymore or you want to upgrade or do something else, we'll take it back, use it, refurbish it, or recycle it. But more importantly, our vision of the future with the kitchen is that your kitchen appliances must do more, right? So one of the reasons why we're not targeting consumers just yet is because we're launching another version which also cooks. And it will cook and or print. So will your future kitchen need a stove, an oven, a microwave, a toaster, a 3D food printer? No. Things have to start working for that counter space and earning your real estate. So with that said, it's a sustainable solution because of the way we will get that in the market and back out again when it's no longer needed. Plus, it will do a lot more in your kitchen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lynette, we have one at the back.
Hello. Just a basic question, really. I was interested to know the time frame of printing food and the kind of examples you gave. Is this something that can be in restaurants and be producing quite quickly, or is it more in a home setting where you'll be making 1 or 2 individually printed things?
Sure, great question. So the answer on timing is it depends. Unfortunately, there's no one right time. In brief, one of the big differences with 3D printing food is that we optimize for the ingredient, the nozzle size, and the shape. So some things you can do very fast, like I'll say flat crackers, which is more 2D than 3D, but you can do that in 10 to 20 seconds. Other things are more intricate. If you want to do a chocolate sculpture, it might take a couple of hours. But on average, the dishes that we're printing that are multi-ingredient take anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes, and that's on average based on different industries. But ideally, it needs to be fast. Nobody's going to wait hours for dinner. So that's something that the technology will always be able to advance on, that we're always making it faster, but it's optimized for what you're actually printing.
Amazing!
Thank you very much, everybody.
Fantastic! Next on stage, we actually have Meritxell from Noweat. Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you to be here. First of all, I will apologize for my English. It's not as good as the rest, but I will try it.
Go
My
for
name
it.
is Mary. and I will introduce a project that is changing the way that we are eating at the office. Because eat at the office is a problem for many. So much as the 85% of Spaniards say that when they are at the office, they want to eat better. And better means healthier, more convenient, and more sustainable. This is a great opportunity for companies to offer a pair that is truly valued by their employees. We offer a service to these companies with which they can provide to their employees a better nutrition, without waiting, without problems, and without orders. The key, a smart and connect fridge that we will install in the office and we replace with the best food. We have three main pillars. We elaborate all the products in the fridge. We have an automatic IoT inventory system that makes that purchases are so easy as opening the fridge, take the food, and it's charged on your credit card. And that analyzes through artificial intelligence in order to personalize the offer and forecast the demand. As any restaurant service, we have a lot of competition, but if we see two axes as quality and convenience, we can see that we are so sophisticated as a healthy restaurant and as convenient as a vending machine. And in addition, we are the only one that seek a social positive impact in all the things that we do. We minimize the food waste, we have 75% of plant-based products in our fridge, and we bring healthy living habits to the people. We target offices and co-workings from more than 150 employees. And if we take account that there are 2.5 million of employees in this kind of offices, and 1 million of them are eating in the office, we can talk about a market of 2.5 billion of euros per year. Our business model is very simple. We have companies an average of 150 employees with a conversion rate of 15%. With an average ticket of 7 euros, we are talking that each fridge is reporting a gross profit around 12,000 euros per year. In our first 8 months of life, we are very proud to be in companies as Globo, Vodafone, SEAT, and we have a waiting list from more than 10 companies. We are rising our revenue 50% month by month. And the KPI that makes us more happy is that the recurrence rate is more than 85%. So the people that try Noweat repeat. This data makes us ambitious and we want to set the accelerator. So we want to install 300 fridges in the next 2 years in all Spain. In the main cities, we will operate the system by ourselves. But in the smart cities, we franchise the concept. We have 4 departments: sales, marketing, logistics, and obviously the kitchen. We bring the leads to the franchisee. We make the marketing on the client. We manage the logistics, and obviously we send the food. So it's a very easy for the franchisee work with us, and we have all the control of the channel. We have closed a pre-seed round, and we are preparing a second round of 1 million for the middle of this year for do all the things. We have 3 founders with a great background in food tech, and we have been accelerated by the Basque Culinary Center in an Article Lab, and that brings us a top network of mentors and investors. We are growing our team to 8 people this month, and that's all. The offices have changed, and the way to eat there with Noweat also. Thank you.
Ask you to stay here with us so that in case somebody has some questions. Question for Mary? Yes? Let me just get you a microphone. Here, on your right.
Hi Mary, thanks so much for the presentation. I'm just wondering how the, let's say, pandemic is affecting the business. Both because some people aren't going to the office anymore, but also give an alternative product or something.
This was the chaos for us when the pandemic arrived, because they think that the offices will disappear. We thought that we don't have any business, but we have seen that offices are very open to change their offices physically, and it's more open to offer a perks to employees for make better life to them. But it's obviously that pandemic affects us. We have launching now another services like home office that allows companies not only have the food in their office, not send to the deliver to the home of the employees. We have to think in another options.
Amazing. Thank you, Mary. Any other questions? Yes, one at the back. Thank you, Audi.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It looks really interesting. I wondered if you're partnering with any of the companies that are starting to offer returnable containers for food. Because I know there's a couple in Barcelona, and I don't know in the rest of Spain also maybe.
Yeah, I know. When we begin, we work with returning containers, but there are a lot of companies that doesn't work this system because they think that there's a problem for them because people don't return it. It's a lot of waste in the office, and then we have to value with them if they want to a return system, or now we are working with another compostable packaging that's only one use.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Great. Now we move on. We have Marc from Heura here somewhere. Oh, I got here. There you go. Take care.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here with all of you. Who was here like 1 month and a half ago? Okay. I have the same presentation for you. I'm joking. I'm going to go a little bit more down to the food tech approach that we are having on what's our vision for the future of the food industry. But always for me it's important to start with the roots, with the most important part that it's our core, our mission. No, we are non-conformists. We believe at heart that anything that we admire as a humanity, it has been done by other humans, so that we have more power than we think, and we have the opportunity to turn big problems into big solutions and big opportunities for us all. But we really believe in that, and we believe that when we find barriers, what we have to look is for stairs to jump over them. So at the end, who from here already ate Heura? Nice. So we normally say that we are a brand with a company, no purpose with a company. We are coming from activism, thinking about how we can scale impact through technology. So our mission is to accelerate the protein transition, and I will talk you about it. And we think that we can do that through technology, but also through awareness and consciousness. We believe that a great formula to create paradigm shift, it's the power of social movement and consciousness, but empowering people as well with options, no, in order to be able to align values and behaviors. So for me, this is the logic of the concept of the protein transition. No, we believe that fossil fuels are that animal proteins represent what fossil fuels to energy. And I think that this shows very graphically, Sometimes we look at the challenge of the protein transition with a crash of identities, but this is about how we can create meat and protein to feed us all and enjoy it at the same time. So this concept of renewing traditions, and if you haven't seen our video of the launch of the chorizo, you will really enjoy it and salivate as well. So protein transition, right now we are very focused on going directly to the legumes, extracting proteins and texturized fibers from it, working with different legumes, and there are many options. I will talk about a new step and something that we want to push towards the future, and also the cultivated area, in microbes or cells that you already know, but all these are main levers in order to accelerate this transition. And we are in the first stages of this industry. Just 1% of the global population is eating plant-based proteins, and we really believe that in 2 decades this will be the norm, and most of our proteins won't be coming from animal sources. But doing an analogy to the smartphones industry, we are in the moment of the BlackBerry. The iPhone haven't arrived yet, and that's what we want to push and fly in this revolution. So when we think about our products right now, we talk that we are the meat successors because we want to go farther from what we achieved as an industry right now. We not just want to replicate the nutritional values and the nutritional profile of animal meat, but go farther from it and improve also the current supply that could exist in plant-based protein, And we think that one of these main levers, we are from here, we love to eat, so it's unlocking culinarity with our friend Prabhu here surprising Teresa, and also using high quality raw materials. Most people in the industry was going to the most saturated fat, coconut oil, easy to process, solid in room temperature, it melts with heat, so it's amazing to use it, but we decided to get the most difficult one, monounsaturated liquid, and how to make it behave like a saturated fat to bring the best possible nutritional profile. This is the kind of challenges that we like. And we are doing new steps into the future. We think that we can create, with this analogy that we are talking, we were in the early steps, that we are pushing something that I would like to validate with you, with your questions, the Mediterranean food tech, that it's about how we can create supplies that have low carbon footprints and are minimally processed and are nutrient dense and coming from whole plants materials. And what I want to say with this is the plant of chickpeas people. So right now, what are we doing as an industry? We are just using in the food industry 1% of the total plants in the world. So there are huge opportunities, but even in the plants that we are using, like chickpeas, we are going to the seed, and from the endosperm is where we are extracting the protein to then create fibrous structures and process them, But all the part of the plant is edible as well. And we can find that plant cell walls that can be on leaf or on the seed coat can even have functionalities of thickening or jellification properties that we are not using in food industry, and also can have really simple physical processes, So we see there that going from physics to chemistry to botanics, there are huge opportunities to unlock on the plant kingdom of properties that right now we are using chemistry or mechanical engineering in order to get these structures. And that's why I was meaning as this next step, how to go straight to biology to find functionalities that right now we are not looking at in order to create products that are empowering more consumers because they can understand better and they can be more excited about. and also much more sustainable and cost efficient to make it closer to everyone. So we're in the beginnings and we can all build this. And something that I wanted to take advantage to comment on is lately I'm looking at headlines in LinkedIn of journalists in the States writing things like plant-based meat is a fad, Beyond Meat it's not growing, so it means that the industry it's just a fad. And it's interesting that when you go 2 decades ago, this is what they were saying about the internet. So, well, good luck. And thank you very much, guys. Any questions?
Any questions from the audience? Can you just get the mic there, Marc? Gracias.
Thank you, congrats, very interesting. One question, because all plant-based food are not necessarily healthy, and for example, Heura is often what you see now in a vegetarian place, your brand, and congrats, it's really a good presentation, but we don't necessarily, so the restaurants say that it's Heura. And what I wonder as a consumer is it soy, is it, and you know soy has some controversies that's produced, and also on the health side effects for some histamines that you have. So I wonder, what is Heura? What are the main? Do you have only one type of protein as of today's world? And how do you take into account also the health benefits? Because Impossible Food, I think, is really based on soy. How you are different, right? So on the health part. Thank you. Sorry, maybe one question.
So the question is, it's plant-based healthy, what's different from Impossible, and what's Heura? So these 3 questions.
What's in it, what's behind, and what's the health benefits or disadvantage, right? Are you soy, basically?
Well, we are, at the end now, we want to be farther than soy and farther from plant-based meat. We want to be a food revolution that gets into the intersection of sustainability, nutrition dense, and culinarity. And this is Heura, and this will be our future. And then we use different raw materials. But it's interesting also, there are headlines that are attacking the category, but when you are comparing to meat, even Impossible and Beyond, that are not the healthiest options, from a macro and micro nutrient perspective, are healthier than. But there is a lot of opportunities to be healthy, even healthier. And that's what we are doing in Heura, no? How to look at the best possible raw materials in order to achieve that. In order of which legumes are we working with right now, we are working with soy and pea. And also it's interesting that there are a lot of fake news about soy that have been really well worked out from a science perspective. That, for example, there were rumors that could be even cancerogen and things like that, and what they shown, the science is that it even can prevent certain kind of cancer. So that it's interesting, no? That sometimes there are a lot of interest in make us think some fake news, but when you look to the science and the studies that have the better methodologies and the most numeric index, it's irrefutable. So in our website you can see our ingredients and all the products.
Any other questions for Marc? How often do you eat Heura?
How often?
How often do you eat Heura?
Almost every day.
Almost every day? One on there. Thanks, Saudi.
Thank you for a very nice presentation. I was wondering, are you also working on fish successors as a part of the Mediterranean diet?
You see that we don't say we are a plant-based meat company, but we aim to the protein transition. So
maybe
there is something fishy there.
Great. Very last question.
Hi. Yeah, I know Spain is a very big meat-eating country, also a big meat-producing country. How do you deal with the pushback from the meat producers? Do you find that meat producers in Spain and others try to push back against your product? Like you're saying, there's a lot of fake news about soy. How do you go about working with meat producers instead of against them?
well, we go to court with them because we like. Well, maybe it's in the other way around that I was saying. So, well, we really believe that in the protein transition, it's not about reinventing the wheel, no, but bringing people together and making a vision that is bringing everyone together, no? And that's the challenge that we have. We have the meat lobbies that are bringing us to court, but what we see is that the industry want to collaborate with us and understand that they are food companies and that the consumers' behaviors are changing. So this is our challenge, no? How we can create a talk about a future that inspire change in terms of reaction, no? And we don't find that Uber taxi situation here in Spain. So this is part of the challenge, but from an industry perspective, most of the companies are already part of this, and the primary sector, it's a challenge.
Amazing!
Thank you.
And last but not least, we actually have Alex from Novameat. Alex, the stage is yours. Clicker. Mic. Yeah.
Thanks, Alessio. Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, congrats, Alessio, for the noticeable and impressive progress that we've been seeing you guys year after year doing here. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys. I'm Alex, Head of Business Development for Novameat. We are a company based here in Barcelona focused on bringing to market the whole cuts, the next generation of plant-based meat. I'm gonna do just a quick introduction, talking a little bit about the market to show you guys why we believe in what we're doing and why we believe this is the next big thing, right? So, needless to say to this audience, the impact of the animal farming industry, right? On our planet resources, on climate change, so on and so forth. And we also know that the single most powerful action we can take is basically shifting to plant-based diets, right? Everyone knows that, science says that, influential people are talking about that all the time, and consumers are already aware and are already changing their habits. Whether for health ambitions, climate concern, animal welfare concern, price, which personally I see nowadays more as a barrier for adoption, right? But hopefully this will change in the future. And COVID has accelerated this transition, right? Whether for panic buying, for increased awareness on health, well-being, so on and so forth. What we know is that the plant-based market, the meat alternative market, or the plant-based market overall, sales have been surging in the past 2 years, 3 years, right? All over the world. Companies know that, right? The big CPG companies are already aiming for the market, are super aggressive on their targets, on their strategic planning. And the expectations for the market couldn't be better, right? Tenfold in 10 years or something like that. There are different numbers, but we know it's extremely attractive, promising market, and this is due to a long-lasting consumer behavior change, right? Or is it? Well, we've seen that 2021 sales in the US appear to have stagnated, right? So has demand peaked? We definitely don't believe so, for several reasons, right? But we do believe that consumers are already starting to ask for more options, more innovation, better products, and this is exactly what we are working on. But the problem is, when you talk about meat sales, the majority of meat sales, animal meat I'm talking about, are whole cuts. So beef steaks, sirloins, the center of the plate meat, as they call it, right? But there are no whole cuts in the market when you talk about plant-based meat alternatives. This is a technological problem, technological challenge that some companies are trying to solve, and that's what we believe in. We believe that the whole cuts are going to be, the meat successors are going to be the next generation of plant-based meat, and this is what we are working on at Novameat. We're working on whole cuts, on the pork sirloins, on the beef steaks, on the chicken breast, and a wider even range of products that we are developing here. So we are basically a technology company, right? And we have been founded in 2018 based on this proprietary patented technology, right? That comes from tissue engineering. Giuseppe Scionti, our CEO and founder, started doing this for artificial organs, right? And he realized that this could be used to do really realistic plant-based meat made out of natural ingredients, only using plants, natural fibers, natural aromas. So our big advantage, technologically speaking, is that we can create a wide range of textures, of cuts, of mouthfeel, using different natural ingredients. So our products or our prototypes right now, we are not on the market yet. We have been producing them with pea protein. We have done them with chickpeas, with fava beans, with rice protein. So using a variety of ingredients that will allow you to be really sustainable and to offer many options to consumers, right? So what you're seeing here are a few of the products or the prototypes that we are developing with our technology. And we have recently raised an equity round to scale up this technology. We are known for using 3D printing. So a lot of things that Lynette were talking about, they apply to us as well. And right now, the focus this year is for us to get our large-scale technology. So we're talking about industrial equipment that we have been testing already for maybe 6 months or already 1 year, to be ready to go to market on a B2B2C and even a B2C approach soon. Okay, so basically these are some of the products. I think that we have very interesting prototypes in terms of technology, in terms of consumer perception so far by the tests we've done. And we're a team of 8 based here in Barcelona. And I think that's it. Super welcome for the questions. And thank you guys.
Any questions for Alex from the audience? Here.
Hi there, great presentation, thank you. I had a question, I guess it's pretty much for everyone, is more, what's the need to substitute meat? Why can't we just create something else?
It's a very good question. I personally believe that we are in this transition phase that you need really people are trying to reduce their meat consumption, but keeping their protein intake, right? Every single day. So you need to give them an alternative, right? Maybe in the future, we're gonna have something completely disruptive that we cannot even imagine. But right now, you need to give them a very tangible alternative to the meat they eat every day, right? Something that gives them the same experience. They like the flavor, they like the texture. So for me, as a regular consumer, for me to leave my beef steak aside, I'm not gonna change that for what? 300 grams of peas. Realistically, people are not gonna change on that way. So I think maybe something disruptive is gonna come in the future and unimaginable, like I said, but you need to go step by step, giving consumers what they want, what they expect, what they're used to, right? So that's a little bit of what we believe.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is around the topic of emotions. I feel like the biggest, let's say, competitor to meat substitutes is emotions. Well, so maybe at Christmas you will eat a sort of meat, and from a children's age on, you would have emotions towards meat and fish. So I wonder, I always feel very disconnected to meat replacements because of that, because I don't feel an emotional connection. How do you think about the topic generally, and how does Novameat solve that issue, or try to solve the issue? And do you agree with that problem?
I do think emotions are super important, and I think you need to be clear on who your consumer is, right? Or who you're trying to connect with. So for example, it's very different, the emotions or the expectations of someone who has been vegan or vegetarian for 15 years And we say very clearly that maybe those are not the target consumers that we should target, right? Because they don't miss meat, even the aspect of meat is not attractive to them. But also on the other side, you have the much bigger group of people who are meat eaters and who are trying to reduce, right? So you need to help them to leave aside the meat, but also not give away of the emotions or of the taste or of the experience, neither, most importantly, the healthier aspect, right? The intake of the proteins that they need, the vitamins, etc. So I think that you cannot deliver the emotions that each and individual type of consumers need or want, but you need to understand where you stand and who you're trying to reach out to.
Fantastic. Any other question? We take one more if there is. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap it up here. Amazing. Thank you all. Alrighty, so, well, I felt like it was a bit of a marathon, but I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we are almost on time. We had 6 companies presenting and a lot of content to go through. So again, thanks a lot for your attention and thanks also for coming down. Just to wrap it up, we're going to be running 2 more events of this forum respectively in Milan and London in the next couple of months. And we're going to record all these sessions and make them available, on YouTube. So they're going to be of a similar format. So we'll have, local, basically companies introducing themselves as they made it into the FoodTech 500. And if you cannot travel, as I understand it also these days, it's not that simple. Then we will be making them available basically on YouTube. Now we're gonna move to the other area to open, for the networking. I think there were some really interesting questions that also were posed to some of the speakers, but I'm sure that it provided some food for thought for the rest of us. So this is the time where we're gonna address them, in the other room. The idea is that you guys can take advantage of it to do networking. So feel free really to take the most out of it. Whether it's asking for the WhatsApp number as opposed to the business card, as we're all here to really try to enable really this type of collaboration. Again, thank you very much for coming down, and I hope that you're going to enjoy the rest of the evening. Cheers.